have to worry. The video itself is not going anywhere. I just use it to like rewrite the quotes and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, just tell me a bit about yourself, your story with breaking, your story with hip hop. How'd you get started? What'd you do and all that?
Yeah. So how old am I now? I'm 26. So I'd say I've been breaking properly about 10 years now. Been competing and battling probably 8, 9 years, something like that. Mainly nationally, like in the UK. But started to reach out abroad now and compete more internationally. Built my name up a bit, coming up through the ranks, going through that stage that everyone goes through where you don't really qualify and you go these competitions and you lose. But built my name up, developed my own style, took breaking seriously, dedicated my life to it. I now teach the kids, younger generation, hence the breaking with Jai stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm just basically trying to be the best I can be now. I'm just trying to compete as much as I can. I'm going to be at the Red Bull UK Championships next month. I'm a guest invite competitor, so I think there's only 8 of them in the UK that got invited, and I was one of them.
mhm.
So that's quite big. I did it last year. I beat the 2-time reigning champion Spin first round, and then I beat the YouTube sensation Mr. Chris the next round. I got to the semi-finals. So yeah, looking to put on a show this year and do well. And yeah,
Absolutely. How did you get started?
how did, um, so I used to go basketball and boxing when I was a kid, and there was a guy that used to come as well. Where did he come? He used to come basketball, and he left early one day, and we were all like, "Where are you going?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to breakdancing." And I was like, "Breakdancing? There's breakdancing in England?" Because I'd only watched the film You Got Served, and I thought it was only in America.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in the next town. I was like, oh wow. So it turns out it's my mum's friend that used to teach it anyway. So I went down, gave it a go, and they said to my mum apparently that he's really good. He needs to keep coming. Like, don't let him stop. So I went and never looked back. I dropped the basketball, dropped the boxing, and just focused on breaking all the way through.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Is that what you do full time?
Yeah, so I teach. I have my weekly classes and my students because in the little town I'm from, there's not really any dancers, let alone breakers. There's basically no one. So then I teach in the Neaton and Redditch, 2 towns near me. That's like my weekly thing. And then other than that, I'm a professional dancer. So I've done like a lot of professional dance jobs, movies, commercials, music videos, anything really. So yeah.
What would you say are your kind of favorite or most remarkable stuff that you've done?
Uh, I was in the box office movie. It was like a Bollywood movie, but it was huge, called Street Dancer 3D. We did filming for weeks on end in London, Dubai, and India. That was pretty cool. Um, what have I done? You know what? I've done that many things now without sounding big headed.
Uh,
I actually forget. Like I have to look back at my CV and be like, I remember doing this, and this, because I can't remember doing things. I've done loads. I've done commercials for like Puma, JD Sports, different celebrities and music artists. I did the Brit Awards with Calvin Harris. That was pretty big. Yeah.
yeah, because I remember when I looked you up, I found this article, and it was just you basically with a bunch of celebrities. And yeah, obviously I had to look you up when you hit me up. Some people call it journalism. I call it stalking. You put it however way you want it. But yeah, cool. Are you looking to compete in the Olympics?
So the Olympics is a tricky one because there's a lot of politics in dancing, in breaking, like there is any sport at the Olympics. And as it stands right now, because I communicate with all the other top B-boys in the UK, I don't really think a lot of people know how it's going to work. I think a lot of people are pretending to have it all figured out, and there's things that's going on behind the scenes, but there's not been too much. There was like a breaking GB battle that happened, which Kid Karam won. There's been like a couple of qualifiers and things, but there's not been like a Team GB made as such, or there's not been any UK qualifiers or a point system. There's been nothing. So am I looking to try and represent the UK or get on a team GB or represent our country? 100%. If there's qualifiers, I'll be entering. If there's ways I can go about doing it, I will. Because for me, I believe I'm good enough to beat anyone in this country on my day. So I believe I can. As far as the actual Olympics, I don't know how that's going to work. It could be a top 16 in the whole world. It could be a top 32 in the whole world. It could even be a top 8. It could be straight invite. There could be qualifiers. I don't think anyone knows at the minute. It would be a dream to go to the Olympics. Yeah, 100%. If the funding was there and if everything was in place. But I think it depends how it's going to work. And yeah, so it's a bit of a tricky one to say now. And because it's our first time being in the Olympics as breakers, I think there's going to be a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes. I don't think anyone really knows how it's going to work at the minute.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. What was your immediate reaction when you're like, oh, when you like knew that breakdancing or breaking was going to be in the Olympics?
I always knew it would be, to be honest. Not that I had any inside info or anything. No one told me, but I always just thought to myself, one day it will get there. Because I've seen other things that have been inducted into the Olympics, and I thought there's no way on this earth that breaking won't be. It's just getting that much media coverage. It's so high level as well. Like breaking's hard to do. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but like breaking is hard. I've spoke to a lot of like England gymnast coaches and Team GB gymnast coaches, and they've all said to me some of the things you do is like seriously difficult when you're doing things like flare up to air flare or 90 down to windmill up to flare. These things are hard to do. They're not like they're just as hard as what Olympic gymnasts are doing. So I've always knew it deserved to be in the Olympics. I just hoped it was going to get the recognition to actually go in.
And I mean, you just said that you've always got a feeling that was going to be there. Does
Yeah.
that mean you've always considered breaking as a sport?
Um, it's a tough one. It's a very tough one. Is breaking a sport? I think it's a dance. It's art. It's subjective. It is kind of a sport. But the thing with breaking that's hard about breaking is there's no definite way to win. We can make all these judging systems, but at the end of the day, it is subjective. In football, I've always said this: you can put a ball over the line, and it's definitely a goal. In boxing, you can knock someone unconscious; it's definitely a knockout win. In breaking, I've seen it, I've done it. You can wipe the floor with someone. You can be 10 times better than them. Your round can be better than theirs on every level, and judges can vote the other way, and they can justify it. They can, I preferred his style, his musicality was better. I thought he didn't crash here. And I feel like it's always going to be subjective. Even with these judging systems, there will be bias, there'll be politics, there'll be subjective decisions. So it's hard. It is hard to call it a full on sport where there can be definite winners because it's all preference. It's all who you think is the best, or not even the best, but who's your favorite, who you like, whose style you like. I mean, what if you get two amazing breakers, a Russian and a Japanese guy, and they both don't crash? They're both super clean. They're both on the music. They're both high level. They're both ticking all the boxes, doing everything. At that point, it's going to come down to who you prefer, really. So I can see why some people value it as a sport. I can see why some people value it as art and as a dance. But I think it deserves to get credit from both worlds, the dance and art world and the sport and more athletic side.
I mean, I have a question just to follow up on that, but before I do that, you're the second b-boy that's kind of given me a bit of the same answer on this. But I was just speaking to someone a couple of days ago. He's my teacher, back home. I dance myself. So basically, what he told me, he's in his 30s now, so his competition days are kind of behind him, and what he's looking forward to, what he's focusing on right now is essentially just kind of judging and being part of this kind of side of the industry. Um, and I don't know if you're familiar with DJ Renegade, but apparently he's one of the people that kind of helped Breaking go into the Olympics, but he's also coming up alongside other people with a threefold judging system so that what you were just describing would be kind of less and less like possible. So what they're doing is, well, what at least what I understood from him is that it's going to work with data. It's going to be data based, where yes, musicality counts, yes, creativity counts, but just because you did a flare instead of, I don't know, like a crossover or whatever, that doesn't mean because you did the biggest move or the bigger move that you're going to be counted better. It's not going to be like ice skating or something like that. So hopefully that kind of clears that out in terms of transparency. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if that clears up, does that change a bit your perspective on it?
Um, I haven't got too much faith in judging systems because I competed in Wales last year and there was a judging system called Whoosh,
Okay.
quite a while system. And I had what I consider the worst robbery I've had so far since I've been breaking. I battled someone on stage. One of the judges was a great judge, Lil Tim. The two other judges I'd never seen before. I don't even know if they break or what. But it was in the quarterfinals, and I battled a b-boy called Andre, and Andre was ill, bless him, he had flu, and I clearly took the battle. Clearly, before the judges counted, Andre pointed at me and went, "Yeah, you took it, fair play." And I was like, "Yeah, cool." The judges, the good judge voted for me. The other two judges voted for him, so he actually won. And everyone was kind of like looking at each other, like even Andre was like, it was a blatant win. And that was when they used the Whoosh judging system. And like I said, that was the worst robbery I've ever had. So as it stands, I don't have too much faith in judging systems. I would have to have like feedback and see it for itself and see it tested out. I mean, it can narrow things down less and less. I think it can be good,
Okay.
but always going to be hard to judge dance, judge art, and judge breaking. I think it's always going to be very difficult. I think there's always going to be bad decisions. But again, there's bad decisions in anything, even in boxing. I mean, there's robberies every weekend. So, yeah.
I mean, as far as you know, what I'm completely ignorant to this. Um, what is or what was the Whoosh system? How did that work?
To be fully honest with you, I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure. I know it was like, it's similar to a lot of them. I mean, the whole musicality, execution, footwork, that kind of thing. There was like criterias, and the judges had a tablet, which again, I don't know if that works because a lot of the time during the rounds, the judges were looking down at the tablet a lot and they were missing half my round. Um, I think a lot of it was kind of on data, and it was like, if you crash, you lose points and things like that. But as well, it can also come down to the judge because that judge then has to watch, they have to interpret it, and they have to put the scores down. So if a judge is not qualified in what they're looking at, they're not going to know a bite, a repeat, a crash. You get what I mean? So it also does still come down to the human that's responsible for the judging.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And as well, my friend Terrell Premier, a good friend of mine, he developed the system. So it's not even like I've got anything against the system. I would love it to succeed because he's a friend of mine. But I mean, I told him as well. I said the system surely doesn't work because we just seen that battle there. Clearly, the wrong decision by a mile. So yeah, I think it's going to be trial and error. I think it's going to take a bunch of years, but I'm hoping the judging will get good, will develop with breaking, especially in the Olympics. Yeah.
Okay. And should we put, the transparency side of it, if we talk about it, just the fact that it's a competition, just on the kind of the athletic side of it, is it a sport for you?
If I had to give you a yes or no answer?
I mean, not necessarily, because I've asked a lot of people, most answers I've gotten were that it falls under art and sport. It just depends on how you let it kind of affect you, how you use it. I mean, some people want to take it and spend their times in competitions, whereas some people like to just express themselves through it. So you can take it that way or that way. But the point I'm getting at is that whether it's a sport or not, it is so physically demanding. And what I found really interesting is that you're the second b-boy now out of two b-boys that I've interviewed so far that have backgrounds in proper sports. Before you, there was this guy who used to be a gymnast, and now you were just saying that you played basketball and boxing. How does the sports you were invested in before that and breaking in terms of physical and athletic demands overlap?
Um, it's funny because I always compare these. I mean, you can see my boxing boots in the background, my gloves.
Yeah.
I always compare them. I breaking is hard because breaking, you don't know if you're doing the right or wrong thing sometimes because it is all art. Like I can go training and spend the whole session developing like really abstract little intricate things. And it may not be too demanding, but mentally it's tough because you don't know if it's the right thing. You don't know if it looks good. You don't know if people are going to value it. You don't even know if it's worth doing. Uh, so sometimes you can go down the wrong path and waste time. It can be demanding, physically very demanding. If you're working on power moves, for example, it's hard. Next day, your elbows, your shoulders are going to be all bruised up. You're going to be aching. You need to be eating the right nutrients. If you've been off breaking for a month and you've not been eating clean, you're going to put on weight. You're going to feel heavy. You do need to watch your weight. I know a lot of B-boys are starting to watch their weight more now. So, I mean, I'm dripping in sweat when I go training. When I train properly and run my battle rounds, I'm dripping in sweat. So, just as demanding as any other sport I've ever done. I've done boxing, I've sparred, like proper intense sparring. And obviously, boxing, you're being punched in the face. So that's a little bit different. But it's just breaking is just as tough. It's just as tough. And as well, breaking your whole body, you use absolutely everything. Your elbows, your head, your back, your shoulders, your knees, your neck, your ankles. You use everything. So it is really, really difficult.
And as a teacher, how much of your sessions or how much of your trainings are kind of, I don't know, fitness based or just stamina work or stuff like that?
So for my students, I try to make sure their foundations are strong. I try to really develop their foundations and make sure they relate to the music, make sure they're doing things on the music and they're listening out for the music. I think them things are really important when you start off in breaking. The foundations are key, fundamentals. But I will always make sure at the end of class, when we've done our training, we've done our freezes, we've done our battles, because I like to get them battling as well. I'll always make sure that we do some strength and conditioning. Not like weights or anything like that, like body weight stuff. I'll have them doing sit-ups, planks. I'll have them stretching. I'll try and make sure I get some strength and conditioning in because I think we're learning more and more as time goes on, and we're understanding that breaking's not like any other dance. It's athletic, it's tough. It's as close as it gets to a sport. So you need to be stretching, you need to be strength and conditioning, you need to be working out. You need to be toughening up as well. Your shoulders, your elbows, these things will get tougher. They'll develop. They'll get stronger. You'll get used to being on the floor and becoming at one with the floor, banging into the floor, rolling, crashing. I mean, you go on YouTube, you look at some of the things that some breakers are doing. A bunch of years ago, you wouldn't have even thought them things were possible. You'd be watching it, you'd be like, I didn't know people could actually do that. But it's mad what the human body can do. It's mad what you can put the human body through and what you can go on to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely. There came that, I can't remember her name. She's an ex squash professional. And when the decision came that said that the Olympics are introducing breaking into the program, she went up and she was like, "That's a disgrace." What do you say to that?
Yeah, I seen the squash community weren't too happy about breaking. I thought it was quality. I love it. I laugh. I'm not your typical guy that gets really angry about things. I find things funny, to be honest. Um, I respect squash players. I respect all high level sports people. I mean, I don't begrudge anyone. I don't want anyone to not do well. I wish squash could be in the Olympics too. Um, and I remember I went on BBC on the radio and was debating with someone, and they strongly believe that breaking shouldn't be in the Olympics and blah blah blah. But it's just opinions. Doesn't really mean anything. And as well, these people, they watch it, and when they watch it and actually give it time, they're the first ones to be like, "Oh, that was very impressive. I was very impressed." So we're entertaining. It's hard to do. and I think it will do well in the Olympics.
Um, it's really interesting the fact that you were debating whether it be in the Olympics or not. What are your arguments for the breaking to be in the Olympics?
My main arguments: it's as physically demanding, if not more physically demanding, than any other sport in the Olympics. We put in just as much work. It's got history. It's got fundamentals, foundation. It's got a language. It's got a. It's not just something that's just. Don't get me wrong. The scene is a little bit of a mess. But it's getting more and more professional as it goes on. And I believe it can be built into something great through time. I believe it can take over and it can be huge. Reasons for being in the Olympics, I believe as well. A main thing is I really think breaking can, not going to go down the whole save lives through and keep people out of prison and all that stuff, but I think it can really help the youth, especially in the UK. We're living in a day and age right now where a lot of stabbings in England, a lot of violence and crime are coming from the younger ages, the youth. And I believe that if they have something that's cool and trendy to put their time into, something they can relate to, and something that genuinely gets them excited and they see opportunity with, it can really get a lot of kids off the street. So I'm a big believer in pushing breaking to the masses and trying to help the youth out in this country and worldwide, really.
I mean, you make a really good point there because I spoke to two people from the IOC, the International Olympic Committee,
Yeah,
and basically a bunch of people who organized it and were there when Paris or France kind of pitched the idea for breaking to be there. And I just got an email from the press office saying that youth was one of the huge like pillars of this decision. Um, yeah, I feel like it was really important for them to be like, no, we want to keep the Olympics towards kind of an innovative kind of way, but also continue to keep a kind of a young audience to it as well.
yeah.
But yeah, is that how a bit like it affected you breaking? Well, was it like an outlet for you? How was it for you?
Um, yeah, me personally, I didn't really grow up in no super tough neighborhood or anything like that. I haven't really got too much of a sob story like that. Like, I didn't grow up in a city. I grew up in a town. I mean, I've been around bad things and seen bad things. I've got friends that have gone down the wrong path, but I don't try and glorify that. I think a lot of the problem as well is people that, they try to glorify them things, and I don't think that's cool. So it didn't really save me like that. I mean, I was quite naughty at school. I didn't do well at school, so it definitely gave me something to do. And I mean, now it's my career. So if I'd never got into breaking, I don't know what I'd be doing now. It could be anything. So I owe a lot to breaking, because without it, I wouldn't have a lot of the things I've done. I wouldn't have gone a lot of the countries I've gone. So yeah, I do think it's definitely an outlet. It helped me a lot. Kept me out of trouble. Helped me get rid of my energy, because I've got ADHD as well. So a lot of the time I go breaking with loads of energy, and then after breaking, I'm tired and want to go to bed.
Yeah,
So it definitely helps in that way.
that's terrific. I'm just checking if I have any other questions. I mean, I have to ask, should you make it to the Olympic stage, what would that be like for you?
Crazy, because I've been written off a lot. I mean, it was only up until Red Bull last year. I don't even think people looked at me as a top contender in the UK. I think people probably looked at me as average. Then when I started raising my game, taking my diet seriously, training, and the main thing is confidence. When I started believing in myself and beating a couple of big names on the big stage, people realised, oh, we better invite him back to Red Bull next year. He's actually quite good. Like, he's a top contender. I think now people see me as a top contender in the UK. But to go to that level would be crazy. It would be nuts. I mean, over the next few years, I'm going to travel a lot anyway. I want to travel. I want to beat some of the biggest names in the world. I want to compete against the best names in the world. So I believe anything's possible. But yeah, to go to the Olympics for me would be absolutely crazy. For other people, like bigger names, it might not be much of a shock for them. They're like kind of expected to go. But for me, I'm more of an underdog. It would be quite a shock for me to actually go to the Olympics. That would be mad.
Amazing. That's